Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I am playing some Battlefield 3, playing some Conquest on Grand Bazar, and today guys it is question time, part 25. Silver anniversary, 25 of these things already. How time flies when you're having fun, I guess. Today guys, this is question and answer, my responses to your great questions. And if you have any questions on anything at all from gaming to life, all you have to do to submit that question for next question time is to pop it down in the comment section below of this video, and I'll get to answering it next time. Now, to briefly talk about the gameplay, yes, it's another gameplay of me on Grand Bazar. I'll be honest, I wasn't going to use this, however, there are two very critical things I'd like to point out. First of all, do not Rambo revive, you'll see why I say that in a moment, but also the light machine guns. Now, the LMGs in Battlefield 3 have been tweaked quite a bit since I've previously talked on them in Support Win, and these days, basically, there's one piece of advice I can give you with them. Not use them like an accurate weapon. Spray and pray is the order of business, and in particular, use the bipod. Now, you'll see me several times in this video just emptying the whole box, keeping enemies from approaching me. That is the role of the support and the light machine gun in Battlefield 3 as of right now. You know, keeping enemies off you and, well, if you can, taking a few down if it can so be done. That's the way to work it, but don't be accurate. Just spray down corridors, down the choke points, keep enemies back, let your teammates come up and just, you know, catch them off guard while they're suppressed. And if you get yourself set up with a bipod and a nice choke point, you can reap the rewards yourself of being suddenly very, very accurate. Anyway, I digress. Keep an eye out on the gameplay for those two particular points, but for now, let's get on with your great questions. And question one this week comes from Trevor Duncanson, and they ask, how would I feel if Battlefield 4 had a theatre mode, a la Call of Duty, so, you know, video makers can get a bit fancy with their video making. Well, first of all, I would love to have, like, a battle recorder or video mode in the next Battlefield game. I've had so many ideas for videos I want to do, but to frame them cinematically. I mean, to be honest, you know, gameplay commentaries are all well and good, but I think it'd be more interesting, instead of having a static perspective, having perhaps it, you know, a few cinematic camera angles every now and then, you know, changing it up, making it a bit more dramatic. You know, don't get me wrong, you know, a single point of view can have its interesting points, but I do think that, you know, every now and then a gameplay commentary which is played out a bit more like a movie, I don't know, could be quite cool. So yeah, a battle recorder would be fantastic in my eyes. I have a load of stuff, fancy stuff I could do with that. And yeah, hopefully Battlefield 4 will have that, so we'll have to wait and see. Thank you, Trevor, for the great question. Next question comes from Dr. BCDPS3, and they ask, have I ever played any of the Sly Cooper games? And if so, am I going to be playing the new one? Well, short and sweet answer, I'm afraid, no, I haven't. I've played demos of Sly Cooper games in the past, but I've never really been into the series myself. I think I was just a little bit too old when they started coming out, but having said that, I know people well into their 30s and 40s who love playing Sly Cooper, so I should probably not say that. But anyway, so yeah, I haven't played it myself, and I won't be playing the new one as a result. So there we go. Thank you, Dr. BCDPS3, for the question, though. Next question comes from Warrior95ML, and they ask, what do I think of the Codemasters game F1 Race Stars? Well, I'm going to have to put a bit of a tangent on this. So, I've only played F1 Race Stars once, and that was at Eurogamer, and I hated it, in a word. I like a good kart racer, you know, in my eyes you cannot beat Crash Team Racing for kart racing, sort of that, you know, arcade style of play, but F1 Race Stars just trying to put the F1 license to a karting game, and it didn't quite work. You know, you couldn't drift, you couldn't do, you know, sliding and you know, that kind of thing, which to me is pretty critical in a kart racing game. The power-ups were cool, don't get me wrong, you know, some very clever stuff, you know, using curves, you know, decelerating on the bends, that kind of stuff, but it was missing the critical execution. I also found the tracks to be, although I could kind of get what they're trying to do, you know, keep it real, I just think it would have been better if they'd not done it at all, to be honest. I just don't think, you know, Formula 1, very serious, very technical, being taken to that level is the right way to go with it. So no, I didn't particularly like it. However, having said that, thanks to PlayStation Plus, I now have a copy of it for nothing. And a few friends have been playing it, and they've been ranting and raving about how good it is. So I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I'm going to have to download it and give it a go once it's, you know, released fully and all the rest. And yeah, see what happens. See what happens. So tentatively, not so keen. I'll say that. But thank you, Warrior, for the great question. Next question comes from I'm going to take your name but add HD, and they ask, what Formula 1 team do I think will win the Constructors title this year, being 2013? Good question, and to be brutally honest, I think it's perhaps still, even now, too early to say. We've only just seen the first load of testing complete. We've got second testing in Barcelona to come next, but there's some interesting lap times being set, interesting things being tested, and if I had to give a definitive sort of thing now, and I'll have to come back to it in, a couple months' time and say, this team, I think, did the best job, I'd have to say I am putting my bets on Ferrari. Now, you might go, what? Why? What? What about Red Bull? What about McLaren? Well, yeah, don't get me wrong, they'll have strong cars, and I expect that they will be winning races, but I've just got this sort of instinctive feeling that Ferrari have got something in hand, and for instance, Felipe Massa saying, it's like a whole different, ball game, whole different car, out of this world compared to last year's car. Yeah, okay, there might be a bit of driver fluff, making, saying the right things that the team want to say, but still, I'm liking the look and pace of that Ferrari. And just you watch now, they're going to have a terrible season. Now I've said that, so sorry, Ferrari. But for me, I think Ferrari, keep an eye out for them. I think they're going to be, excuse the pun, a bit of a dark horse. There we go. Thank you very much. I'm going to take your name, but add HD for that great question. Next two questions actually come from Trey Kuriba, and they ask, first of all, do I still play Medal of Honor Warfighter? And their second question is, chocolate and peanut butter, chocolate and caramel, or Duff by chocolate cupcakes? What would I choose? Well, I'll answer the second question first. You cannot beat, just in general, chocolate, muffins as we call them. I quite happily eat myself to death on those, so there we go. Do I still play Medal of Honor Warfighter? No, I don't, I'll be honest. I completed the campaign, enjoyed that very much, played multiplayer as much as I felt, able to, but, while I enjoyed it, and I'm kind of done with it now. I guess, it's fulfilled its need, it's whatever it's, I don't know what the word is, but it's done its job. I've had my time with the game. I enjoyed it, and now I'm going to move on to the next game. That just tends to be how I am with games. To be honest, it's very rare that I'll put significant time into a game after release. Battlefield is just one of those series which it always has been able to keep me enthralled. But Medal of Honor hasn't quite done that for me. There are some really cool modes. It was definitely an improvement over sort of the reboot. Let's just see, because no doubt they'll be making a new game as well, what they can bring with the next iteration. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, Trey, thank you for the great question. Next question comes from Bonkers Self, and they ask, what do I think the PlayStation 4 should sell for? Well, first of all, I'll say, you'll be seeing this, it will be the 20th of February. PlayStation have called the PlayStation meeting on the 20th. All I know is it's at 11 o'clock GMT, our time. I think that's 6 o'clock Eastern. Yeah. The rumour is they're going to be announcing the PlayStation 4. Leaked pictures of the new DualShock 4 have come out. It's a bit bigger, chunkier, a bit more 360-like. I'd say it's it's a bit larger, a bit more ergonomic. But it's got a screen on there. It's got a little microphone on there. It's got, I think, a slot for a headset. Yeah, an interesting looking controller. A little out of the sort of family tree, as it were, of the current sort of DualShock line of controllers, a bit chunkier and whatnot. But yeah, I seriously do think that we'll be seeing the PlayStation 4 announced this Wednesday, today, as you'll be seeing this if you're watching on the day I release it. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, the price of the PS4 is going to be tricky, because consoles, when they are launched, tend to be loss leaders. They'll deliberately sell them at less than what it costs to make, and the games will make up the rest in terms of the licensing fee that Sony get from them. The PlayStation 3, when it was launched here in the UK, was £425. That was a lot of money, and although it's sold, it perhaps could have sold more if it was a little cheaper. So if I were in charge of the marketing and the budget was there and all the rest, I would be aiming for like a £350 price point, and I think that they would sell like hotcakes, because it will sort of be in between sort of the price which your crazy enthusiasts, moi, would be willing to pay for the new console on day one, but also it's just within perhaps that little realm of people going, well, I want to buy a new console. I could buy this for 150 or for 300 and a bit more. I could get the brand new spanking shiny just released piece of kit. So there's that like temptation value. So I think £350 would be the place to go for. No idea what that would be in dollars, but mind you, we get nailed in the conversion anyway. We always pay more, but so £350 I think would be the way to go. if Sony could do that. And if it is £350, or they announced that on Wednesday, today, whatever, woohoo, what a guess. I don't know. Yeah, thank you Bonkers Self for that great question. And yeah, guys, in general, what do you think of pricing of hardware and stuff these days? I mean, I had to buy a new DualShock 3 because, well, mine died. I did not realise they were so bloomin' expensive. You know, mine, I was able to get it for £30, but that's because I really shopped around. Most places were wanting 40, 45 for it. Yeah, console hardware, you know, given that we're probably next generation, sorry, will be the last we'll see where I expect we'll have a disk drive where we won't be streaming all the games all the time from the internet or something. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. What would you be willing to pay? I'd be interested to know that way as well. So any thoughts on that? Please do leave a comment on that. I'll be interested to see. So yeah, Bonkers Self, great question. Thank you again very much for it. Next question comes from BobNob1964, and they ask, who do I reckon is going to win the Rugby Union Six Nations Championship this year? Apparently it's 300 to 1 on Italy winning the Grand Slam. Well, having seen Italy play on the first weekend where they utterly trounced France, well, actually, no, utterly trounced is perhaps a bit harsh to France. You know, they were outplayed. I must admit, looking to like the second weekend of events, I was thinking, oh, Italy, they might have a chance against Scotland, but Scotland really picked up their game, so that's the way these things go. But I would say of the teams, and having seen 2 weekends of matches now, I think it's going to be between England and Ireland, and it's just going to be a case of who I think can maintain the momentum. Now, England currently are leading. They've won both of their matches. Ireland have won one, lost one. They lost their match against England. It was a very close, proper, good old game of rugby. But yeah, I think it's going to be between those two. We just got to keep an eye out for the match against France in particular. I think England might have a tough time, and we'll just see what happens. And Ireland, well, they've just got to keep consistent. They can play very good rugby. So between those two, I think, and well, as an Englishman, I'm hoping England's obviously going to win. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting championship. It's already, they've seen some great rugby, and well, long may it continue, I guess. So Bob, thank you for the great question. And just while it's happening, that was the first instance of Rambo reviving I'm calling out in this video. That might have seemed harsh, me deliberately aiming and gunning for that same poor guy who was down, but I'm going to prove a point in a second anyway. I digress. Anyway, excellent. Thank you very much for that question again, Bob Knob. Next question comes from Blown Tire, and they ask, would I ever do a meetup with subscribers? And yeah, why not? I mean, to be honest, at this point in time, the odds of 5,000 people geographically all being in the same place to warrant it would perhaps be well, there'd be very little chance of that happening at all. But yeah, I would certainly be very open to the idea of having sort of a meetup at some point. And I think it'd be really cool to meet you guys. I mean, for instance, yesterday I was playing a little bit of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and I ran into one of my subscribers, Killer Knife, if you're watching. Hello, sir. And yeah, that was a really cool experience just to meet someone randomly out in the real world. So yeah, I am completely open to that, and we'll just have to wait a little while and you know, see what happens in the future. That's all I'll say. Thank you very much, Bluntire, for the great question. Next question comes from Lancer J, and they ask, in general, am I optimistic when I hear, you know, like if a classic series are going to get a new entry, and they sort of go on to say, you know, often after playing a disappointing game, you know, you might say to yourself, oh, I just wanted what it was before, you know, more of the same. It's a really good question because we are seeing this more and more. You know, games tend to get sequels if they sell well. You know, Battlefield, for example, is an example of this. And like, there's one series in particular where I'm kind of going, Metal Gear Solid is a massive passion of mine, and well, I'll answer in a second. But my favourite game series of all time is Metal Gear Solid. In particular, the Solid games. Obviously, Metal Gear will be getting Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance in a bit, and I see that as an abomination of the Metal Gear sort of universe and series. Having, again, played at Eurogamer, it was just a hack and slash. There was no stealth, there was no, you know, elements of intrigue. It was just, you're right, and go and cut some things, and that just did not appeal to me whatsoever. So what I'd say is, yeah, I would definitely like to see series continue and get sequels, and definitely, you know, if a formula works, yeah, keep it roughly the same, but, you know, you do want some innovation in there. You know, look at for instance, the Call of Duty series right now. roughly speaking, it is the same formula, which has worked, let's be honest. It's sold the game, people enjoy playing it. But for me to go back to it now, I would need, a serious refresh of just how the game is and how it works, and I don't see that happening. So it's kind of a tricky thing. I tend to be optimistic. Yes, if it's a game I like and I know that just the how and well and when of it will play out will be similar, yeah, I'll definitely look forward to it. But you've got to be careful with this. There's a fine line you've got to walk between innovation and keeping the character, I guess, and yeah, that's a tricky thing to pull off. Battlefield has done this to a degree. They've been very clever in how they've done sequels. For instance, the Bad Company series was like a complete tangent to Battlefield, and that worked for them. They could do different things, it kept it fresh, and that was great. Whereas, some game series, they just can't do that. They are in their own universe, they've got to play by those rules. Yeah, I'll digress. Lancer J, great question. Yeah, I do tend to look forward to it, but it's obviously, you've got to keep the current fans happy, I guess. Great question, thank you very much again for it. Next question comes from Altierias, and I've probably said that wrong, so my apologies. But it's also kind of referenced by another question by Ryan Scott, and I'll mention that in a second. But Altierias asks, how would I describe my university years? Were they boring, exciting, better than my sort of school years? I can say without question, my university years were the best years of my life. The reason being is that I finally got to know who I was, because for the first time I was on my own, as it were. I had to completely fend for myself. I had to, cook, clean, live, take care of grown-up stuff, all that kind of stuff, which you just normally never would ever do unless you're in a pretty unique situation beforehand. And because of that sort of newfound responsibility, because of that newfound freedom almost, I loved my time. I had a great bunch of friends, I loved the course, I had a lot of fun, definitely had a lot of fun. But at the same time, it was very hard work. It was, there were points where I think, I just can't do this, I can't succeed, I've got to give up. I would definitely recommend the university experience to anyone, and yeah, it's going to be difficult, for sure. You will have moments where you just go, how on earth am I expected to get this piece of work done, and do this, and do this, and do this? And that's where you learn. That's where your life lessons come from. My dad always used to tell me that university is there for two things. It's the university of life as well as the university of the subject you're doing. And it's so true, You get to learn how you react in situations, you get to learn how to read situations, and yeah, I really enjoyed my time. And yeah, as a result, I definitely enjoyed it more than anything previously. So yeah. Now, Ryan Scott mentioned a video basically, and it's this guy talking about how university, although it opens many doors, it also means that the people you tend to interact with can be, well, bastards, and how you'd be willing to potentially put others at in a bad scenario, stab them in the back just to get yourself advanced. Now, yeah, I did see a lot of that, and it's just the nature of how some people work. People are a product of their environment, and they react and act in a way that they seems logical, sensible, normal to them based on what they've seen previously. And some people are just like that. And it's up to you, I guess, when you're actually there to try and realise, okay, these people are just here for the ride. They're trying to, sucker up and get me to do all the work and them to benefit for no work whatsoever. Yeah, you got to keep an eye out for those types. And it's up to you to judge who your friends are and, well, keep your enemies closer, I guess. So yeah, university, it's amazing. I can't recommend it enough, but you will be experienced and exposed to scenarios you'd never see before, and it is up to you to navigate. And yeah, that is quite the challenge at times. So guys, great questions. Yeah, university, it's amazing, but you've got to keep yourself very much alert and aware of what's going on around you. It's a great question, guys. Excellent, thank you very much for that. Next question comes from Butcher563, and they ask, who are my top 5 greatest British Formula 1 drivers to race in the sport since it began in, well, 1950? I thought it was 1952. Silverstone. I digress. Anyway, and well, let's compare lists. Well, I've got my 5 right here, and I'll start with number 5 and I'll go up to number 1. So number 5, my opinion, greatest British Formula 1 driver is Lewis Hamilton. First of all, you might go, okay, well, that's a bit predictable. Yeah, it might be a bit, but I respect him a lot. 2 reasons for that. First of all, he's a proper racer's racer. He will put it all on the line, and you know, he will have to live with the consequences. And he's done that a few times. You know, he could have won his rookie season if he didn't, for instance, make the mistake he did in China by staying out too many laps and letting the tyre get down to the canvas, or you know, perhaps well, to be fair, the thing in Brazil, the gearbox thing, that wasn't really his fault, but still. You know, he could have perhaps reacted differently, who knows. So yes, Lewis, I have a lot of respect for. He obviously won his driver's title in pretty, well, spectacular fashion. And yeah, I just have respect for him. He's a proper racer, so I approve of that. Next up on my list is James Hunt. Now, he is, well, he was very much an everything or nothing kind of driver. He is my personal sort of all-time favourite driver, but if you just, you know, ranking on sort of greatest, you know, he's my favourite, but I would say he isn't the greatest. You know, James Hunt, he was an everything or nothing kind of guy. He would talk straight, not give you any shit, and you know, he lived his life the way he wanted to live it, and I respect that a lot. And you know, when he drove very well. He worked his way up from, well, he bought his own Mini, which he started racing in, and ended up in a Formula 1 car with a teddy bear on it, but he still won races, you know. Fair play to him, fair play to him. After that, my number 3 is John Surtees. Not only did he win the Formula 1 World Championship, but he also won the equivalent championship for motorbikes, and I can't remember what that was back in the day. But, you know, this was back in the 60s, 70s, when very little safety on bikes and cars. Fair play to be doing 2 motorsports at once. Yeah, you don't see too many drivers doing that these days. Number 2 is Graham Hill. Now, Graham Hill, again, you know, amazing driver, a lot of success, but he's the only man to have the Triple Crown, as it's called in motor racing, having won the Formula 1 World Championship, Le Mans, and the Indy 500. That is quite an achievement, and shows that, you know, obviously he is, well, hell of a driver. He can adapt and drive 3 very different types of motor car, and do very well. He's also quite a good motorcycle racer as well. Quite a few of this, you know, multi-series stuff going on back in the day, haven't there? Anyway, but yeah, obviously, you know, fantastic driver. His son Graham obviously then came into the sport and won the championship as well. Just very impressive achievement. But I'd say my number 1 greatest British driver, Sir Stirling Moss. Many reasons for this, many reasons, you know. I think probably the top reason is just he's an inspiration, just the way he approached things, the way he thought through his decisions and whatnot. You know, for instance, when he was driving in Formula 1, he wanted to drive for a British team, and he tried everything to get a British car up to the top, and it didn't quite work. He nearly had the Van Wall there, but you know, I think it was it in the Van Wall he had the accident? I forget, but you know, it didn't quite happen. He was invited to drive for Ferrari, and Ferrari basically went, no. He made the trip to Italy, and Ferrari went, no, we don't need you now. And by principle, he would refuse to drive for the Ferrari team. Although a few years later, Ferrari was so desperate for him to drive a Ferrari, they even made a deal that Ferrari would provide the car to a British team, so Sir Stirling could win the Formula 1 Championship in a British team, but just happened to be using a Ferrari car. Just motivation, passion, I just haven't seen anywhere else. So Sir Stirling for me is my number 1 greatest British driver, and you know, he won other races as well. You know, he did, you know, he raced in Formula 1, he got a championship there, but you know, he also won the Mille Miglia, you know, the 1,000-mile race through the Italian hills in record time. What a man! What a man! So that's my 5. So you've got Lewis Hamilton, James Hunt, John Surtees, and Sir Stirling Moss. Oh, and Graham Hill. Yeah, helps if I write these down. So yeah. 5 amazing drivers, my personal top 5. I'll be interested to see your list, if the compares are as different. Butcher, great question, thank you very much for it. Next question comes from Liz Soul, 2 questions, and they ask, first of all, do I think DayZ has been ruined by hackers? It certainly ruins the experience when you're playing the game. Yeah, when, you know, you're off in a bush, you're contemplating your next move, and all of a sudden you get spawned 50 feet up in the air and everyone else is around you falling to your death. Yeah, it does kind of break the game there, but I must admit, as my experience of playing the game has gone on, I've found less and less hackers, so that's kind of improvement, I guess. So yeah, it does kind of ruin it when they appear, but I've been fortunate, I guess. So I don't know, whitelist servers for the win. But their second question is, what is my favourite video game series of all time and why? I've already said it, Metal Gear Solid. Reason being that it's a game which has many levels. And you might go, well, yeah, most games have multiple levels. Not levels in terms of, actual in-game levels, but you can play through the game several times and get different messages and meanings from it. And, there's a very strong theme of gene, meme, and scene throughout the whole Solid series, which, once you take it together, is just wow story. Yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, I'm out of time, and hopefully you saw what I meant about bipodding and Rambo reviving. Yeah, a pretty nice game, and yeah, thank you again for a load of amazing questions. Unfortunately, as normal, there are a few questions which I haven't had a chance to answer, so I'll get to answering those next time, or next time in the comments below. And if you have a question for next time, all you have to do is put it in the comment section below as well. Anyway, guys, as always, thank you so very much for submitting some amazing questions, some real thinking questions there, and some really, very interesting questions as always. And if you like my response, if you could leave a like or dislike, whatever you believe the video deserves, that'd be fantastic. And if you want to see some more videos from myself, you can always subscribe. So guys, I've been Chuggy, thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you next time out on the battlefield.